Hi guys, so the other night I went to watch A Quiet Place Day 1 at the cinema. This is the third film in the franchise, it's a prequel. There are two franchises releasing their third films at the moment, so there's this and then there's Maxine, but I'm much more interested in A Quiet Place than Maxine. I didn't really get along with X and Pearl, the two films that came out before Maxine. When it comes to A Quiet Place, I've followed the series for quite some time. I didn't see the first film at the cinema, I saw it a bit later on at home, but when I did I thought it was an excellent movie, so much so that when it came to the second one, I not only decided to see it at the cinema, but I also made it the first ever film that I saw in IMAX. Now, I wasn't huge on the second film as it happens, I only gave it 2.5 out of 5 when I reviewed it. I thought it was a little bit samey, it wasn't really doing anything new, but I've cooled on the film over time. I probably bumped my score up to a 3 now, but I think this prequel is even better than the second one, albeit not as good as the original film. So in this one, we follow a young woman. She's dying of cancer, although it's not clear how long she's got left. It could be weeks, it could be years. It's not obvious when you're watching the movie. When the aliens attack New York in this, she doesn't have the same motivation to reach the evacuation points like everybody else because she knows she's dying. She'd rather go and get a slice of pizza from her favourite pizza parlour downtown. That's her goal in this movie, to find this place and eat pizza. I'm not going to judge because I'm not dying of cancer. She meets a guy after about 15-20 minutes of the movie, and now he does want to reach the evacuation points. So we've got two people working together here, both with very different goals, both from completely different walks of life, and they do have an interesting friendship that develops throughout the movie. This one was directed by Michael Sarnoski. I'm not sure I've written that down right. Michael Sarnoski, maybe. Now, this guy is a little bit green around the gills. He's only done one film before this, a film called Pig, which is not even a horror film, but that film got critical acclaim. I'm guessing that's why he was entrusted with doing this film, and I'd say he's done a pretty decent job of it. I mean, this film is not going to knock this guy's budding career off the rails at all. I think he's, with the material he's been handed here, I think he's contributed to this series just fine. In terms of the actors, so playing the main woman, we've got Lupita Nyong'o. I've probably pronounced that wrong as well. This is a pretty decent actress to get for a film like this. I mean, she's in the Black Panther film. She was also in Jordan Peele's Us. Very good actress, albeit I think she struggles a little bit to fill the shoes of Emily Blunt in this. I mean, Blunt is a god-tier actress in Hollywood at the moment. She's absolutely superb, and coming into a film like this and trying to replace Emily Blunt would not be easy for everybody. I mean, this is an experienced actress they've managed to get in for this, and I still think she struggles a little bit. Stealing the show, I would say, is her co-star Joseph Quinn, who is a much more inexperienced actor, but I really liked his character and performance in this. He has not really done a whole lot before this film, but he's got this under his belt now, and he's going on to be in Gladiator 2. I don't know what the size of his role is in that, so this is a career that's just getting started, but the two of them, like I said, have a really interesting friendship in this. I should probably at this juncture indicate that there will be mild spoilers today, but I'm not going to give away the ending, and I'll try and be suitably vague about the film where I can, but just throwing out a fair disclaimer. I did want to talk a little bit about the alien creatures in this, and one thing I've noticed 3 films in, that there still doesn't seem to be a name for these things. A creature this well designed, there should be a name, surely, you know, something cool like Licker or Xenomorph, but I don't think there is. I went into the wiki page of A Quiet Place Day 1, I looked in the plot summary, I was looking for a name if one existed, but the creatures are described as extraterrestrial creatures, and then later on in the summary they're just described as creatures. I even looked in the plot summary for the original film, only to discover that they are described in there as sightless aliens. So yeah, there's no proper name, is there? I'm just going to call them creatures or aliens for the rest of this review, but they are typically relentless in this film. I particularly love the long shots where you just see them scuttling over tall buildings because they've heard some noise over yonder, and up close they are particularly frightening, especially when they're listening intently and you can see into their ears and you can see all the muscles just vibrating around. It's kind of icky. I would have liked a little bit more of a fight back against them, though, in this. I mean, and this is the first of the mild spoilers, I suppose. There's only one death of a creature in this film, from what I can remember. So there's a creature who drowns at a certain point. But I would have liked a few more occasions now and then throughout the story where the characters just fight back a little and give some kind of splattery death to these creatures. I mean, I don't want the thing to turn into Starship Troopers or anything like that. That would be lame, but give us some kind of satisfying bit of retaliation or something like that. One of my complaints about the second film was that you didn't really find out anything new about the creatures. I think I was hoping that film would be a bit more like James Cameron's Aliens, where we'd come across a nest or a queen and learn some new things. But you don't learn anything in the second film. It's sort of like DLC to the first film. But I'm pleased to report you do find out something new in this film. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but there's a little moment where you just learn a little bit more about the creature's biology. It's over very fast and then we move on, but I appreciated the fact that it was there. It just gives even more of a reason for this film to exist, I suppose. Going back to what I said about one of the creatures dying in this, dying by drowning as it happens in the underground sewers, this was a new thing for me. I didn't realise, or I didn't remember that these creatures could drown. I think there's something to do with water in the second film. There's a scene in and around water, and maybe some creatures die in the water. So maybe this is something that we should already know coming into the third film. But if that was the case, then I'd totally forgotten. But I find it very interesting that the creatures have this weakness. It just makes me imagine in my head what the future of this apocalypse might look like, because if we flash forward months and years, maybe it gets to a point where the creatures have all the mainland continents and humans are just living on all the small islands all around the world, and maybe there's a civilization springing up in the middle of the ocean in like a Kevin Costner's Waterworld type way. So it'll be interesting to see how this franchise develops going forwards. I'm not sure if this is going to be one of those series that just keeps going, or maybe it will just end after we've had part 3 next year. Only time will tell. Although I do think they're missing a little bit of a trick with some of these earlier films, because they've got such big budgets for horror films, and yet I don't feel like they're entirely making the most of that. I mean, all these stories so far, they've been small, intimate family stories with just 2, 3, 4 characters, but I kind of feel like, could they have been a little bit more ambitious, maybe done something a bit bigger and bolder, and then save the smaller scope stories for later down the line with part 8 when the budgets have started to shrunk. But maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. Maybe it's just part of this series hallmark that it is character driven. It does focus on small amounts of people, well written people, instead of having 10, 15 people just being there for cannon fodder. I've got to say, there's a really cute cat in this who keeps popping up all the way through the story. Just when you think it might be gone, it pops up again somehow in the next segment. I thought to myself, this thing's going to get eaten quite quickly, surely. It will meow and give itself away, and that'll be that. But no, this cat doesn't meow at all, seemingly. And I thought to myself, well, even if it does, it might still survive, because the cat will see the creature bounding towards it, and the cat will just turn tail and at 100 miles an hour disappear through some hole that you didn't know was there, because cats are very good at scarpering and keeping themselves out of harm's way. I know this because I've got a cat myself. They can move very silently, and from having watched this film, it turns out cats are very good at surviving these particular creatures, but the cat in this film, so cute. Now, moving over to the more negative comments when it comes to this, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get more about the initial arrival of the creatures. Now, this was something that was covered a little bit in the second movie. There was that whole flashback with the baseball game, and you could see the creatures coming down somehow, and then there was that whole chaotic moment in the streets where Emily Blunt's having to drive backwards and so on. But I thought we would get more of that at the beginning of this particular movie, maybe a few interesting perspectives of different people, different institutions, and you don't get that. We're literally with this one cancer patient character. So when the creatures turn up, she's in the street somewhere, she doesn't see anything come down. she can just hear the streets nearby starting to get more and more chaotic, and then the army turn up and weapons are fired, and then it's all misty, and that's all we get. And then it's on with the movie. The creatures have arrived, and we're getting on with it. But I would have liked to have seen the creatures come down again. I would have liked to have seen maybe some change of perspectives where we see the army's first engagements with the creatures. I would have liked to have seen some characters on like the 50th floor of New York's really tall buildings getting to look out and seeing what's what, because they would get a really good viewpoint of the initial danger that's suddenly upon the city. I might have liked to have seen the president's reaction. Loads of different points of view that you could have had, but there's nothing like that, and that was definitely disappointing to me. I mean, I got over it. There came a point where we were so far into the movie, I thought we're past the initial alien arrival now, and I'm not going to get anything like that. But like I said, I got over it. I got into the movie because there's so much to enjoy in terms of the chases and the high tension moments. There's a brilliant chase through a bank, which is just awesome to watch. And probably my favourite part of the movie is when the characters have to take a detour through the underground subways, which is really tense with all the darkness down there and then the destruction that's happened to trains and things. This sequence definitely brought back memories of a similar set of circumstances in Cloverfield, from what I can remember. But once the film gets going, very, very enjoyable. I mean, it didn't touch me much on an emotional level, I guess. I think the film wants you to feel really touched by the main character's plight with her cancer and her friendship with this guy she meets. I didn't really feel as much as the movie wanted me to. I just enjoyed it as a good, fun summertime horror film at the cinema. Really kicked back with my milkshake and enjoyed it. And I'd say, like I said before, this is definitely a slight improvement over the second one. It does leave me wanting more. I'm definitely up for watching the one that's coming out next year, the proper part 3, if you like, where Emily Blunt will be back. And yeah, this franchise, I think, still has a lot of legs to go. I really do believe that, even though the films up to this point haven't made me a super fan of the franchise or anything. I think the first film is still the only excellent film really up to this point. But this was solid. I didn't regret my trip to the cinema, and on we go. Normally at this point of the video I would show you my copy of the film that I'm reviewing, but obviously I don't own this. It's still showing at the cinema even at the time of recording this video. At some point though, I wouldn't mind owning the Quiet Place movies maybe. I wouldn't mind getting like a little trilogy box set possibly, just to keep the costs down, but whether they'll do anything like that I don't know. Although I probably won't watch these now until the next one comes out next year. I'm not yet ready to go back to the other ones, which I've only seen once. But there we go. Shall we get to the Bag of Terror? Find out what score I'm going to give this? I think we should. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 3.5 bloody axes out of 5. Very good film. This is a little bit more than what I would score the second film, but the original film I would probably say is a 4 out of 5 movie, even though I never did a review of that film. I think the channel came along after the original Quiet Place, but there we go. So I'll leave it there for today. A Quiet Place Day 1 is worth a cinema ticket, in my opinion, and I'll catch you all again another time. Bye-bye.